calling it a career as a full-time member, but we'll see you around, of course. You are a shareholder at the radio station.
The deep reserve on the bench.
Now, talk about your interests. How did you get involved in radio, Dave? Why did you decide upon this career?
I get asked this question, and the best answer I got is when I was in elementary school, I used to sit and eat my cereal at the kitchen table, listening to KBUR out of Burlington, Iowa, believe it or not, and at that level going, I want to do that. That's what I want to do, and that's where it started.
You, of course, attended Iowa State. You were in the journalism program. Was it radio and newspaper? What did they all do in that journalistic program?
At that time, journalism programs at colleges are much different today than they were way back in the day when they had basic journalism classes, but then they had radio. They had radio PAS courses, TV courses, newspaper, magazine, and even public relations type courses. So I did radio is what I wanted, not TV. So that's what I focused on. Obviously, when you're doing that, you take a few from all the others just to, because that's what fits. But radio is what I wanted to do. So that's where I focused. Here's your trivia for the day. One of the main instructors was Jack Shelley, who, of course, in Central Iowa, he was famous. He was known in Central Iowa as a journalist for decades, top quality. When I started here, I used to talk to Jack. He got his start actually at KROS. Nobody remembers that. Because he worked, right? I shouldn't say KROS. He was at the Clinton Herald actually with Lee White, who Lee White actually worked at KROS for a while. But Jack Shelley worked in Clinton before he got called. He worked here for just a few months and then got called by WHO in Des Moines to come work on radio and TV in Des Moines. So Jack Shelley worked in Clinton, Iowa as his first journalist job at the Clinton Herald with Lee White.
Interesting. Where did you get your start?
Actually started for a few months in Austin, Minnesota as the farm reporter doing the farm markets. So I used to know many years ago, I used to know a lot more about the farm markets we hear from Dennis Smith. I knew all that stuff. I knew what it meant, but that's been many years ago. I did that for a few months and then moved to Southern Iowa, worked in Ottumwa for about 6 years, and then here in 1983.
Now, how did you find out about KROS? Why the move to Clinton, Iowa?
Hank Dillman called me. That's how it came about. Hank said, called me up and said, I understand you might be looking for a job. Why don't you come up and talk to me? And I did, and that's where it came. Hank, I believe, Hank never told me this part of the story, but from what I understand, Hank called around and he called a friend of mine who worked at KROS, was working in Mason City in radio at the time, Larry Higley, who maybe, I'm not sure, he might have worked here in the 60s. I'm not sure if you knew Larry or not.
No, I did not, but I knew that he did work here.
Yeah, he worked here, and he was in Mason City at the time, and Hank called him and asked if he knew of anybody who might be looking for a news job. And Larry gave him my name because I was friends with Larry over the years, and so he knew I, might be interested in moving. So that's how it ended up. That's how Hank got my name, from what I understand. Now, neither one is here to confirm nor deny that story, so we could throw it out there and let people decide.
So you got your start, of course, in the news department and worked in the news department for a number of years, and then all of a sudden you took on the double role of being general manager and news director. How did that come about?
Back in the late 90s, people remember Don Snyder, who worked the morning show. He took over for Hank as the manager about the time we moved out to our studios here on 13th Avenue North. And unfortunately, Don suffered from Parkinson's, still does. It should be an active verb, and suffers, not. And in the late 90s, Don determined that he just physically could not do the job any longer. And Don basically said, "Tag, you're it." And, that's how it basically came about. And he said, would you do the job? And I said, okay, I don't know any different. So that's basically in, I believe it's 99.
Right. April 1st, 1999 is when I took over in the morning from Don. So it would have been right around that time.
I think the official announcement came at the anniversary party in September, October of 99.
Okay.
So you would have been on the air, but I was working in the morning news show then, but that's how it came about. Don just basically came to me and said, can you do the job?
As it has turned out, you've probably be the longest tenured general manager here at KROS. And, of course, during that time period, there's been some ups and downs, but I would have to say the last couple of years have been maybe the most interesting.
That's interesting is one way to put it, Gary. Yeah, I know you're referring to the pandemic and the derecho because they go almost hand in hand. Or back in August of 2020, the derecho came, and at least here on the hill, we'll call it on the hill, the estimate of 140 mile an hour winds blew down our tower. We got 120 feet up now, but it's been a up and down, literally up and down and sideways and forward and backwards to jump through all the hoops to get to the point where we could put the tower up. We actually had pretty much everything in place, had the equipment here, had 400 feet of tower horizontally on the ground, not in the air, since last fall, but we were still some hoops to jump through, getting the city building permit and some paperwork there and those kind of things, and getting all that done, and then getting some decent weather. Well, the last 6 weeks or 2 months have been horrible weather. And just the other day, this week, they got what the tower crews tell me, and I go by what they tell me. I talk to them when they come in. Learn a lot. They have to they put up that, if you drive past on 13th Avenue North, what you see up there right now is 120 feet. And they wanted to get that much up, but they could have gotten a bigger crane. They might have put more up by crane, but they get a big section of it up. And then there's a system they use to then hoist up a section at a time. And those sections are 20 feet long. And so they'll, when the weather's nice, now they can come in and spend a day. And hopefully they can do it all in a row. Hopefully maybe they'll show up yet today and get a few sections up. Don't know. But so then they do that a section at a time until they get to the 400 feet. And of course, then that's the tower. Then there's some other electronic technology types of things that have to happen to the tower to be able to get back to broadcast at full power, 1,000 watts on AM, get our FM antenna up to the 400-foot level that it's licensed for and what we had before. So then we'll get better coverage on both of those. And I can't go any further than saying thank you to our businesses and our listeners who have continued to work with us and listen to us, even though the signal may not be the best. It doesn't reach as far as it did, but we're operating on what they call special temporary authority. And if you hear that term, I learned all these terms. Stuff I didn't want to know, but you learn as you go. And so we have special authorization from the FCC. There's a lot of hoops to jump through to do this. And they grant that pretty much, but you have to file the paperwork, which means you got to deal with an attorney. You got to deal with some engineers because they give you certain permissions. You can operate outside your license parameters, but here's your parameters now to operate, et cetera, et cetera. So we get that all done. We got that. So
enough about the tower.
But that's what you can drive past and look at.
Enough about the tower. Outgoing General Manager, News Director Dave Vickers. Now your wife, Karen, is also retired. She's been retired for a while after a very successful career at Clinton Community College. So what are the future plans now that you two are going to be off on your own?
Sleep past sunrise. And after that, we'll see. Don't have any definitive plans. Not going to be out looking for a job. Not going to be out doing that. Just do what retired people do. We'll figure that out as we go.
How has she been enjoying her retirement?
Well, I've been told, says you redefine what busy is, and you go from going 100 miles an hour every day to not going 100 miles an hour every day.
Okay, hobbies you're going to be taking up?
I don't know. We'll find out.
Now, we are going to see you around here. You're going to be filling in for me a couple of days when I'm in Des Moines for the state track meet. So we are going to see you around here.
I'll be around, phone call away. As I said, the deep reserve on the bench, deep reserve, like on the NBA roster, I'm that kind of the 13th guy on the bench when you have nobody else to call in. But back, I want to mention, you mentioned COVID. Yes, that's been a struggle, but again, with the help of this great staff here at the radio station, we've been able to maneuver through that. The businesses have maneuvered through that with us, and I think in the end, it's not over, but we've been able to maneuver to a point where it's a dull roar, not a loud roar, and I think that's due to the great staff here that we've been able to manage all that. I can't get out of here without saying thanks to everybody, because everybody had to work different, and everybody had to do things a little different, and we still do things a little different. Maybe it's better.
It's better because I've learned so much more that I just used to rely upon you for doing for me. So now more education coming my way.
Everybody has to learn a little bit different, do things a little different, and that's not a bad thing. But everybody's been able to adapt and do things and make it work. Again, it's because of the great staff and the great people that work here, that still work here. Even though I may not be here every day, there's a lot of people here that folks know and rely on.
Of course, you're going to be doing the midday report today, so if you're out in the area, don't bring any cake or cookies, donuts, because we got plenty of those. But if you want to come in, say hi to David, wish him well. He is going to be here all morning long. He'll be doing the midday report. What are you going to miss the most?
As always, the people. Nobody retires without us saying that.
What about the news? Because I know you are intrigued by news and covering news. You do a great job of covering the local area.
The comments made, I mentioned, happened to be both the school board and the city council meeting this week, and I told them that I was retiring, and Sydney was taking over. You've heard her on the air. She'll be doing some of that. But I told them, and he just says, and I said, I may be the person sitting in the back now, watching you guys work, whether you like it or not, because these are open meetings. So I may end up sitting at the back table.
Who knows? Maybe you'll be a board member or a councilman here in the future.
But that means you got to run for election and get votes. And I'm not sure I got that personality to go out and get votes.
Well, I have enjoyed working with you for so many years. I know you are going to be around. I'm looking forward to that, and I cannot wait to have you down at the bottom by the tower when we have the ribbon cutting and 400 feet in the air.
Hopefully soon, before Memorial Day. That's been the bet for a year, and I thought, we'll have it up before Memorial Day. But today, I'm not sure. Again, the weather is right now. It's all dependent on the weather.
Dave, thank you.
Keep it on the download here, is the Dan Patrick Show. Former Ohio State quarterback Dwayne Haskins passed away.